Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. You know, we love to take a close look at all sorts of fascinating books, and today we're tackling personal finance.
Oh, yeah.
Which is always a hot
Okay.
topic, right? Specifically, we're going to be looking at getting out of debt
Right.
and building a really solid financial foundation.
Yeah.
Our guide for this journey is Dave Ramsey's The Money Answer book.
Classic.
It's a really popular one.
It is.
So we're going to pull out some of that practical advice,
Yeah.
see if we can find some nuggets of wisdom that we can all apply to our own lives.
I love it. So let's dive in.
Okay, so you know Dave Ramsey, he's known for that.
Straight talking.
Straight talking.
No nonsense approach.
Yeah, no nonsense approach. And he really seems to believe that personal finance is way more about behavior than just knowledge.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know what to do,
Right.
but actually doing it consistently, that's the challenge.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And that's why I think his baby steps are so popular.
Yeah, that step-by-step framework.
Yeah.
You start with a small emergency fund.
Okay.
Then you attack that debt, and eventually you move on and you start investing and building wealth.
So there are 7 steps in total, and I think we should unpack those a little bit later.
Yeah.
But first, I really want to understand that core principle of his, that debt is dumb.
Oh. He's not subtle.
He does not mince words, no.
He does not.
That.
Debt is dumb and credit destroys is one of his most popular lines.
Right.
He's a huge advocate for getting out of debt, like, as soon as possible.
Okay.
Avoid it like the plague.
But isn't debt kind of a normal part of life? I mean, mortgages, student loans, I mean, isn't that just...
It is today.
Okay.
But the idea of widespread personal credit is actually pretty new.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't really take off until the 1950s.
Wow.
And that's when companies started heavily marketing credit to consumers.
Oh, so it's like buy now, pay later kind of thing.
Exactly. Enjoy now, pay later.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, that really led to a surge in personal debt levels.
I see. So before the 50s, people were more likely to just save up for things.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, that puts our current...
Spending habits.
Yeah, spending habits into perspective.
Big time.
Yeah. So it makes his stance against debt even more relevant, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because we are bombarded with credit card offers everywhere we turn.
Constantly.
Yeah. So how do we combat that then? I mean, what's the first step?
Well, once you've committed to tackling your debt,
Yeah.
Ramsey recommends that you use the debt snowball method.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
So that's where you list all your debts, smallest to largest.
Yep.
And you just focus on paying off that smallest one first.
That's it. You make minimum payments on everything else, but you just throw as much money as you can at that smallest debt to knock it out.
I see.
Okay. And then you roll that payment amount into the next smallest debt,
Okay.
and so on and so forth, and it creates a snowball effect.
And so I think that's motivating because you're getting that quick win right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seeing those early wins.
Yeah.
It keeps you going, and it helps you avoid getting overwhelmed.
But what about tackling the debt with the highest interest rate first? Doesn't that save you more money in the long run?
That's true mathematically speaking.
Okay.
It makes sense. But remember, Ramsey argues that personal finance is more about behavior than just numbers.
Right.
The debt snowball is designed to help you stay motivated and avoid getting overwhelmed by addressing that emotional side of debt.
So it's more about finding a method that works for you that you can stick with.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe like a hybrid approach. You start with the snowball to get those quick wins, and then you switch to targeting the higher interest debts.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Combine the psychological benefits with the financial benefits.
There you go.
Absolutely.
All right, so we can't talk about Ramsey without talking about credit cards.
No.
He's pretty much declared them public enemy number 1.
He believes that they make it way too easy to overspend and accumulate debt. And studies have actually shown that using plastic can lead to spending 12 to 18% more than using cash.
I get that. You know, I think there's something about physically handing over cash that makes you think twice
Right.
about buying something.
Yeah. With a credit card, you kind of lose track of how much you're spending.
Totally.
You feel the loss of money more acutely when you're using cash.
Right.
And that can really help to control impulse spending.
And then you get that credit card bill and you're like, oh,
Right.
no.
Exactly. Where did all my money go?
Exactly. All right. So Ramsey also cautions against things like balance transfers and 0% interest offers.
Yeah, they sound tempting.
Oh, so tempting.
But is that always the case?
Often not. They usually have a very limited time frame.
Okay.
And if you don't pay off the balance before that promotional period ends,
Uh-oh.
you could be hit with even higher interest rates than you had before.
Ouch.
Yeah, and there can be hidden fees associated with balance transfers.
That eat into any potential savings.
So you gotta read the fine print.
Absolutely.
All right, speaking of practical tips,
Yes.
Ramsey loves the envelope system for budgeting.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about this.
So it's a very tangible way to manage your money.
Okay.
You allocate a specific amount of cash for each budget category, like groceries, entertainment, whatever.
Okay.
And you put that cash in a labeled envelope.
So when the eating out envelope is empty,
You're done.
you're done eating out.
That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like a built-in accountability system.
It is, and it can be especially helpful for visual learners.
Right, or people who struggle with impulse purchases.
Exactly.
All right, so beyond just getting out of debt, Ramsey is a big advocate for saving and investing, even a small amount.
Oh, absolutely. He talks about the power of focused emotion when it comes to savings goals.
Okay, I like that.
So he uses this great example. Imagine needing $15,000 for a crucial surgery not covered by insurance.
Okay.
Could you save that amount if you had to?
Yeah, probably. Desperate times.
Right. You'd find ways to cut expenses, maybe take on extra work.
You'd make it work.
Exactly. You'd make saving a top priority.
You have to.
You would. And that just shows that we can save if we prioritize it.
Okay.
We channel our emotions effectively. It's about harnessing that intensity instead of letting it drive our spending habits.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So this applies to investing for retirement too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He talks about starting early, investing consistently in good growth stock mutual funds.
Okay.
He also breaks down the basics of Roth IRAs versus traditional IRAs.
Okay, those can be confusing.
They can be.
So what's the main difference again?
So with a Roth IRA, you contribute after-tax dollars.
Okay.
But when you withdraw the money in retirement, it's completely tax-free.
So you're giving your future self a big tax break.
Exactly. And the earlier you start,
Yeah.
the more time your money has to grow tax-free.
Okay. And traditional IRAs.
They offer tax deductions up front,
Okay.
but you have to pay taxes on those withdrawals in retirement.
I see.
So in the long run, a Roth IRA can potentially lead to greater tax savings.
Okay, so especially if you're younger.
Especially if you're younger, you've got more time for those investments to compound.
Makes sense. All right, so we've covered debt budgeting, saving, investing for retirement. What other areas does Ramsey address in his book?
Well, one that I think often gets overlooked is estate planning.
Okay, and he says everyone needs a will, even those without significant assets.
He highlights a pretty startling statistic. Actually, 74% of Americans with children don't have a will.
Wow, so if something happens to them...
The state decides what happens to their children and their possessions.
Wow, so it's not just about protecting assets.
Yeah.
It's about making sure your wishes are honored.
Exactly. And for those who do have significant assets, Ramsey explains the basics of living trust, which can help avoid probate and offer more privacy and control over how your assets are distributed.
Okay, so a will is essential for everyone, and a living trust might be something to consider if you have a larger estate. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about relationships and money because,
Oh, yeah.
finances are a big source of conflict for couples.
Absolutely.
So how does Ramsey approach this?
He stresses the importance of financial compatibility and open communication.
Makes sense.
Couples need to be on the same page with their financial goals and work together as a team.
Okay, but is it realistic to expect couples to always be, like, imperfect?
No, you're right. It's not about being perfectly aligned on every single financial decision.
Right.
It's more about having those shared values,
Yeah.
willingness to compromise,
Yeah.
and working towards those common goals.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about the impact of debt on things like military status?
Oh, yeah. He points out that financial irresponsibility, especially excessive debt, can lead to a dishonorable discharge from the military.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just about personal consequences.
Yeah.
It can have a huge impact on your career and your future.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm curious to hear Ramsey's take on the lottery. Does he ever advise buying a ticket?
He is not a fan at all.
Really?
No.
At all?
He emphasizes that the odds of winning are incredibly low, and it's just not a sound financial strategy.
Okay, so instead of spending money on lottery tickets, he probably says, invest that money.
Absolutely. Even a small amount invested consistently over time can grow into a significant nest egg.
I like it. All right, let's talk about cars, another big purchase
Oh, yeah.
that can drain your finances
Absolutely.
if you're not careful.
For sure.
What are his thoughts on buying a car?
He had some strong opinions about car buying,
I bet he does.
and they might surprise you.
I know he's a huge advocate for buying used cars
Yes.
and paying cash whenever possible.
Always pay cash for your car.
So he has 4 main tips, actually.
He does.
Only buy new if you're extremely wealthy.
Right.
Only drive a car that's at least 2 years old.
At least 2 years old.
To avoid that big depreciation hit,
Yeah.
pay cash for your car.
Always.
And then this one I left. Ensure that the total value of your vehicles doesn't exceed half of your annual income.
It's a good rule of thumb.
It's a really good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing he's not a fan of leasing.
You guessed right. He's vehemently against it.
Really?
Yeah. He explains that with leasing, you're essentially paying for the car's depreciation. You end up paying thousands of dollars over that lease term.
Oh.
And you have nothing to show for it at the end.
Wow. So it's basically like renting a car for a few years.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ramsey would argue that you're much better off buying a used car, paying it off quickly, and driving it for as long as possible.
And he walks the walk, too.
Well,
He tells a story in his book about driving a junker car
yeah.
when he was getting out of debt.
Early in his career.
Yeah. And it taught him a valuable lesson about living below your means.
And avoiding unnecessary debt.
And avoiding unnecessary debt. Yeah.
Exactly. He realized that the freedom that came with not having a car payment
Yeah.
was worth more than driving a fancy car.
It's about shifting your priorities. Okay, so we've covered debt budgeting, saving, investing, estate planning, relationships, and money.
We have.
Even the lottery and car buying, I think we've touched on most of the major personal finance bases.
I think so.
His style is very practical.
It is.
No nonsense.
Straightforward.
It's all about taking control of your finances.
Yes.
Making choices that align with your values and goals.
Absolutely.
So it's about those small, consistent choices
Yes.
that add up to big changes over time.
I love it.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll delve a little deeper into those baby steps
That's good.
and explore some of those specific strategies that Ramsey recommends for achieving financial freedom.
Let's do it. Those consistent choices, they really do add up.
They do. And that brings us back to those baby steps.
Yeah.
So we talked about the debt snowball,
Right.
but I want to hear more about that very first step, building a starter emergency fund of $1,000.
Yes.
Why is that so crucial even before tackling debt?
So even that small emergency fund, it provides a buffer against those unexpected expenses. You know, car repairs, medical bills.
Life happens.
Yeah, the things that pop up at the worst possible time.
Exactly.
It prevents those surprises from derailing your financial progress and forcing you to rely on those credit cards or go deeper into debt.
So it's about breaking that cycle of
Yeah.
debt and
Yeah.
having that safety net.
Exactly. It's a psychological step as much as a financial one.
Yeah.
It just gives you a sense of control
Yeah.
and security, knowing that you have a little bit of cash on hand
Okay.
to handle those smaller emergencies.
All right. So once you've paid off all your debt, except for your mortgage,
Right.
then Ramsey suggests bumping up that emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
Yes,
Okay. So that's a much bigger goal.
it is.
Why such a large amount?
Well, a fully funded emergency fund, it gives you a much greater sense of security.
Yes.
You know, especially if you lose your job
Right.
or you're faced with a major unexpected expense, it gives you time to kind of recover and make adjustments without panicking
Right.
or making rash decisions.
You're not just scrambling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. It's about having that peace of mind,
It is.
knowing you can weather those financial storms.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So speaking of long-term thinking,
Yes.
that takes us to another baby step, investing for retirement.
Yes, one of my favorite topics.
Ramsey's a big believer in consistently investing 15% of your household income into retirement accounts.
He loves it.
He particularly likes those pre-tax retirement plans like a 401k and Roth IRAs,
Yes,
if you qualify.
absolutely.
So we talked about Roth IRAs a little bit earlier,
We did.
but what about 401k plans?
So a 401k is typically offered through your employer.
Okay.
And one of the biggest advantages is that a lot of employers will actually match your contributions
Oh, nice.
up to a certain percentage.
So free money.
Free money, essentially.
I like it.
It's a great opportunity to supercharge your retirement savings.
All right.
And those contributions are made pre-tax, which lowers your taxable income. Okay.
In the present.
So you're not only saving for retirement, but you're also reducing your current tax burden.
Exactly. Win-win.
I like it. Okay. Now, what about saving for college?
Oh, college. Big one.
Yeah, Ramsey talks about ESAs and 529 plans.
Okay. What's the difference?
So both of them offer tax advantages for college savings,
Okay.
but they work a little bit differently. The key takeaway is that with a Roth IRA, you contribute after-tax money, and it grows tax-free. You also won't owe taxes on the withdrawals when you use the money for those qualified education expenses.
I see.
529 plans, on the other hand, they're state-sponsored, and the earnings grow tax-deferred.
Okay.
With tax-free withdrawals,
Right.
for qualified education expenses.
So they both have tax benefits, but Roth IRAs are more flexible.
Yes, they are,
Okay.
if college isn't in the picture.
All right, so beyond those specific baby steps,
Yes.
Ramsey tackles some other common financial questions and challenges.
Absolutely, he does.
So for example, he talks about being financially prepared for a potential divorce.
Oh, yeah. It's something most people don't like to think about.
Of course.
But it's important to be realistic, you know?
Yeah.
He emphasizes the importance of knowing your legal and financial rights.
Okay.
Should that happen?
All right, so being prepared and informed
Yes,
can certainly help you navigate that.
absolutely.
Okay, what about single parents who are struggling to make ends meet?
Yeah, he does talk about that a lot. He really emphasizes prioritizing basic needs first.
Food, shelter, transportation.
All of that, even above paying other bills.
Wow.
He also highlights the importance of seeking legal assistance to make sure that those child support payments are being met.
Okay, so it's about taking care of yourself and your children first.
Absolutely.
And making the most of those limited resources.
Exactly, and creating a detailed budget and sticking to it no matter how tough it might seem.
All right, so he also talks about teaching kids about money.
He does.
And he says you should start before they're teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
Why so early?
He believes financial literacy is essential. Parents should instill those good habits early on by giving kids opportunities to earn and save and spend wisely.
Okay.
It's never too early to start learning about money.
All right, so I remember him talking about buying a car for your teenager.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, he's not suggesting a brand new sports car.
No, not quite. He strongly believes that teens should learn the value of hard work and saving by contributing to the purchase of their own vehicle.
Okay.
He even suggests a matching plan where parents match their child's savings
Okay.
to help them reach their goal faster.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about teaching responsibility and financial independence.
Absolutely.
So speaking of teens and money, what about those massive student loans?
Oh, yeah.
So many young people face today. What's Ramsey's advice there?
He encourages students to explore all options for grants and scholarships.
Okay.
Before taking out loans, working part-time while studying can also make a big difference.
Right.
Attending a more affordable local college for the first 2 years is a great way to save money
Okay.
before transferring.
So he also suggests considering the long-term financial implications of your chosen field, right?
Absolutely. Will a degree in that field lead to job opportunities that justify the cost of education?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about the potential return on investment.
Yes.
All right, now I'm curious about his take on private schools and private lessons. For kids, does he think those are worthwhile investments?
He acknowledges that they can offer some really valuable benefits.
Okay.
But he always comes back to financial stability first.
Okay.
He advises against going into debt to cover those expenses.
So it's about finding a balance.
Yes.
If you can truly afford them, great, but not if they're going to put you in a precarious financial position.
Exactly. It's about making choices that align with your financial capabilities and overall goals.
All right, now this is kind of a niche topic,
Okay.
but Ramsey also offers advice for managing money when your income is irregular,
Yes, he does.
which can be really helpful for freelancers, entrepreneurs, anyone with commission-based income.
Absolutely.
So inconsistent income can make budgeting really tough.
It could be a real challenge.
So how does he suggest handling that?
He recommends basing your budget on your lowest possible income,
Okay.
just to make sure you can cover those essential expenses even during those lean months.
So you're kind of creating a buffer.
Yes.
All right.
And then any extra income
Yeah.
can be allocated to savings goals, debt repayment, or even fun stuff.
I like that. So it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
Okay.
He still believes in having that blow category
Yes.
for guilt-free spending.
Guilt-free spending. I love it.
Yeah.
So personal finance isn't about deprivation.
Right.
It's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
All right. So speaking of big financial decisions,
Okay.
let's move on to real estate and mortgages.
Yes,
Ramsey has some strong opinions here.
he does.
I know he recommends being completely debt-free, including paying off your car before even considering buying a house.
Yes, that's his ideal scenario. He believes that having a solid financial foundation before taking on a mortgage, it really reduces stress and allows you to build equity more quickly.
Okay.
He also advocates for putting down at least 20%
20%. Okay.
to avoid private mortgage insurance.
PMI. What's PMI?
It's an added expense
Okay.
that gets tacked onto your mortgage payments if you put down less than 20%.
Okay.
It basically protects the lender in case you default on the loan.
Gotcha. So bigger down payment equals no PMI.
Exactly.
Okay. What about the type of mortgage? Does he have a
He
preference?
does. He is a big proponent of 15-year mortgages over 30-year mortgages,
Even though the monthly payments are higher.
even though monthly payments are higher. Yes.
Why is that?
Because the total interest that you pay over the life of the loan is significantly lower.
So it saves you money in the long run.
Exactly.
Okay, I've also heard him say to avoid those adjustable rate mortgages.
Oh, yes, ARMs.
Air arms, yes.
He does. And for good reason, they have fluctuating interest rates, which can make budgeting so unpredictable.
You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. 1 minute, your payments are manageable. The next, they've skyrocketed.
So fixed rate mortgage is the way to go.
According to Ramsey. Yes. He also cautions against those 80-20 mortgages where you take out 2 loans to avoid PMI.
Okay.
The second loan often comes with a much higher interest rate,
I see.
which can offset any savings from avoiding PMI.
All right, so what if you have no credit history?
Yes.
Can you still get a mortgage?
Ramsey says yes.
Okay.
He encourages people to work with mortgage brokers who do manual underwriting.
Okay. What does that mean?
It means the lender looks at your individual circumstances,
Okay.
like your income, your job stability, your rental history,
So not just your credit score.
not just your credit score. They take a more holistic view of your financial situation.
I like that. Okay, now you might think that Ramsey would be all about paying off your mortgage like ASA,
Right?
but he actually advises against being too aggressive with that.
He does, especially if it means sacrificing retirement contributions.
Right, so remember, he still recommends putting 15%
Yes.
of your income into retirement accounts.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance.
Yes.
Okay, so let's shift gears again
Okay.
and talk about insurance.
Okay.
This is an area that can feel a bit overwhelming,
It can be.
even intimidating.
It can be. But insurance is crucial for protecting yourself and your family from financial disaster.
So what kind of insurance does Ramsey recommend?
He's a big advocate for term life insurance over whole life insurance.
Okay.
Term life insurance, it provides coverage for a specific period.
Like 10, 20, 30 years?
Exactly. And it's generally more affordable
Okay.
than whole life insurance,
All right.
which is more complex
Yeah.
and often includes an investment component,
I see.
which Ramsey believes is not the most efficient way to invest.
To keep insurance simple and focus on providing coverage for your family.
Exactly.
Okay.
He recommends getting enough coverage to replace your income for 8 to 10 years, which gives your family time to adjust financially if something were to happen to you.
That's a good point. And of course, he also talks about having adequate health insurance, auto insurance, homeowners, or renters insurance, right?
Absolutely. All of those types of insurance are essential to protect yourself from significant financial losses in case of illness, accidents, or damage to your property.
Okay. What about homeowners insurance specifically? Any tips there?
Yeah, Ramsey recommends replacement cost insurance.
Okay. What is that?
So it covers the full cost of replacing your home and belongings if there's a total loss,
Oh, wow.
even if you haven't updated your policy to reflect those changes in value.
So it takes the guesswork out.
It does, but it's
I'm-
important to note that some companies are now offering policies that only pay 120% of the policy value.
Okay.
So you might need to update your coverage
Yeah.
from time to time.
Okay, good to know. It's a good reminder to review your insurance policies anyway.
Annually.
Make sure you have adequate coverage and that your premiums are still competitive.
Exactly.
Now, what about extended warranties?
Oh, extended warranties?
They can be tempting,
It can be very tempting.
especially for big purchases,
Yeah.
like appliances, electronics.
Yes. But Ramsey is not a fan.
Really, why not?
He believes that they're often overpriced and that you're better off self-insuring for potential repairs.
What does that mean, self-insuring?
It means setting aside money in your emergency fund
Okay.
to cover the cost of those repairs if something breaks down.
Okay.
Because statistically, most people end up not using those extended warranties,
Interesting.
and that money could be better used elsewhere.
Makes sense. All right, let's talk about a topic that can be a bit sensitive and maybe emotionally charged,
Okay.
dealing with debt collectors.
Yeah, it can be a very stressful and overwhelming experience.
So what's Ramsey's advice for handling those interactions effectively?
He encourages people to know their rights, stay calm, and avoid making promises they can't keep.
Oh, okay.
Debt collectors are trained to be very persuasive,
Right.
even intimidating.
Yeah. It's good to remember that going in.
Yeah.
So what's a good strategy?
Go in prepared.
Yeah.
Know exactly what you owe, what you can afford to pay, and what your options are for negotiating a settlement.
And get everything in writing, right?
Absolutely. It just protects you.
Yeah.
And it ensures that both parties are on the same page.
Okay, now another challenging situation is dealing with medical bills,
Oh, yes.
especially if you don't have insurance or you have limited coverage.
Yeah, medical bills are notoriously difficult to manage.
They add up really quickly.
They do.
What does he say about that?
He encourages people to be upfront with the hospital or the doctor's office
Okay.
about their financial situation.
Okay.
Ask about options for financial assistance,
Hmm.
or maybe even negotiate a payment plan.
So advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. Medical bills are often more flexible than other types of debt when it comes to settling terms.
Good to know. Okay, so communication is key.
It is.
All right, what about debt consolidation loans? Are those ever a good idea?
Ramsey actually cautions against using debt consolidation loans to pay off credit card debt.
Why is that?
He believes they often don't address the root cause of the debt,
Okay.
which is overspending.
Overspending, okay.
They kind of create a false sense of security.
Right.
And it's easier to fall back into those old spending habits.
And sometimes those loans come with higher interest rates.
Yes.
Or hidden fees that make it even worse.
Exactly. So just be cautious and understand those terms and conditions before you consolidate any debt.
Okay, now let's talk about investing.
Yes, let's do it.
What's Ramsey's philosophy on investing?
His approach is pretty straightforward. He emphasizes investing only in things that you truly understand.
So don't jump on the latest trend.
No, he's definitely not a fan of day trading or get-rich-quick schemes.
Okay.
He's all about long-term steady growth.
Long-term steady growth. Okay, I like it. So what are some specific investments that he recommends?
He believes mutual funds are a solid choice for most investors.
Okay.
He suggests diversifying your investments across different types of mutual funds,
Right.
like growth stock funds, value funds, international funds. Yeah.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spread your investments out to reduce that risk.
Makes sense. I've also heard him talk about cashing out your 401k before retirement.
Oh, yeah.
What's his stance on that?
He is completely against it.
Really?
Yes. He warns that cashing out early can result in some pretty significant tax penalties
Okay.
and set you back years in your retirement savings.
So it's not worth jeopardizing your financial future for that short-term gain.
Exactly.
All right, so your 401k is designed for long-term growth.
Yes.
And if you leave a job,
Yeah.
he recommends rolling over your 401k
Into an IRA.
into an IRA
Yes.
to avoid those penalties and keep your money working for you.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From budgeting and debt management to saving and investing insurance, even estate planning.
It's been a real deep dive.
It has been a deep dive into the world of personal finance
Absolutely.
with Dave Ramsey as our guide.
Yes.
And his approach is all about taking control.
Of your finances, making informed choices,
Yes.
and building a solid financial foundation for the future.
It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making progress.
Right.
And taking those small steps in the right direction.
I love it. It's amazing how much we've covered, from like basic budgeting to the really specific stuff like mortgages and insurance. This deep dive into Dave Ramsey's Money Answer book has been packed with information. What stands out to you as like the most surprising or actionable takeaways?
You know, one thing that really struck me is how Ramsey always comes back to that behavior side of personal finance. It's not just about, knowing the strategies. It's about understanding like our psychology when it comes to money. And then making, conscious choices to shift those habits.
Right. Like the whole idea that using cash can curb spending seems so simple, but
It is.
yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, and his debt snowball method is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
It might not always be the most mathematically efficient way to pay off debt, but it really leverages that like desire we all have for quick wins.
Yeah.
It helps you build momentum.
Yeah, you got to stay motivated.
Yeah, and that ties into another point that resonated with me, the whole importance of financial compatibility in relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Ramsey really stresses open communication and shared goals, and I think that's so crucial for a couple's financial well-being.
It's a common source of stress for couples.
It is.
But it doesn't have to be.
It really doesn't.
If you're transparent and willing to work together, you can prevent a lot of those disagreements.
Absolutely.
And on a more personal level, I really liked his perspective on contentment.
Oh, yeah.
He argues that true financial freedom doesn't come from acquiring more stuff,
Right.
but from being content with what you have.
It's a refreshing perspective,
It is.
especially in our culture.
Yeah.
We always want more, more, more.
Yeah.
But Ramsey's message is about living within your means,
Yeah.
being debt-free, and having that sense of control over your finances.
Right. It's about aligning your spending with your values
Absolutely.
and focusing on what really matters. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, a question. What does all of this mean for you and your financial journey? What really resonated with you? Did you have any aha moments? Maybe you're thinking about trying that cash envelope system or having that money conversation with your partner that you've been putting off. Every journey starts with that single step, and even small changes make a big difference over time.
It's really about taking ownership of your financial future, making choices that align with your values and your aspirations. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress, creating a life of financial peace and freedom, whatever that looks like for you.
It's a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
And you don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely not.
There's so many resources and tools, even communities out there to support you.
So take that first step today, even if it's just a small one.
That's it for our deep dive into Dave Ramsey's Money Answer book. We hope you found it insightful and empowering. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking control of your financial future.